We were with the Mobile Riverine Force. It was Joint Army and Navy. We were at Dongtown, 9th Infantry Division base camp, and we worked out of there several months, and then you would be swapped out with another battalion on the Navy ships, and you would stay on there for a month, and they would transport you up and down the rivers and canals on those old metal tangos, World War II landing craft.
Right. You know, one of the things I wonder about the Mekong at that time, we often hear that Tet was devastating for the Viet Cong, which I think is right. But it seems that down in the Mekong that was less true. It seems in the Mekong the Viet Cong were much strong, were pretty strong. Do you think that's right, or were you dealing more with NVA or VC, or do you know?
Mostly VC. In fact, they would scatter here and there, and you wouldn't see any of them for a while, and then they'd get together, and they would attack or ambush you or whatever. So it was sort of a hit and miss type thing. But we would ride those tangos up and down, and they would beat us, and we'd get out and walk a little ways. If we didn't find nothing, they'd pick us up by helicopter, drop us into another spot, just trying to find something. And we'd do that for 2 or 3 days, and then go back to the ships for a day off, and then back out again.
Was it with the engagements with the Viet Cong? Then was it mostly brief hit and run kind of stuff?
Most of the time, we had several major engagements there. Like we got overrun one night at August 12th. Well, it was the morning of August 13th, about 3:30 in the morning. We had been called in another outfit had run into a pretty good sized force, and they called in 2 or 3 other companies to go in and try to encircle it. And we spent the night there and had several guys killed. When they came out that morning, about 3:30 in the morning, they were trying to escape and get out before daylight.
Wow.
And they came over our unit.
So the base you were on, it was overrun then?
Well, it wasn't a base. This was just out in the field.
Oh, okay. Wow.
We were a company there called in just to help. There were 3 other companies out there, and they had engaged in a pretty good sized little force, and they had airstrikes, artillery, and everything going. And then we went in about 3:30 in the afternoon, kind of as a blocking force at one end of a tree line that had been all shot up and bombarded and everything. And then when we tried to go in the tree line, we were in open rice paddies, and they pinned us down till dark, where we could get back to a little rice paddy dike. We were in water out there in the rice paddy, and every time somebody tried to move, they'd pick you off. So we just stayed till dark and got back to hold that rice paddy dike. And then they didn't do anything at all that night until 3:30 when the guys in my platoon spotted some movement, and we opened fire, and they came out blazing. It was, they were just running out, getting out.
Wow.
And
so it sounds like the VC and the soldiers were kind of intermingled a little bit in this area.
Yeah, there was. I would say they were. I don't know how you'd say it. They were pretty strong in some areas, and in other areas you wouldn't find much at all. But I think they'd get reinforcements down through the Ho Chi Minh Trail and everything, and resupplied that way. And we even captured one VC payroll officer one morning.
Really?
Somehow, I don't know how that was, but he had some outfit didn't get paid that month. Wow. Of course, I doubt if it got paid every month anyway, really, but I don't know what. In the area we were, where there were an awful lot of tunnels and stuff there too, so they had a lot of areas to hide. God. They could disappear if they wanted to.
Jeez. Were you involved in any way in trying to interdict traffic coming from the Ho Chi Minh Trail?
No, not really, except just on the rivers.
Yeah.
They would stop boats or sampans and monitor that at night. Anything that was moving at night was pretty much fair game because they figured they were
Right.
transporting stuff. Daytime, they'd check boats and everything and check papers and all. A lot of times but a lot of times you wouldn't know who was who.
Right, whether they were civilians or VC
Right.
sympathizers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, were you drafted into the Army or did you volunteer?
No, when I got out of college, I was graduated University of Georgia in the forestry school, and if you could get a job, you would be drafted. So I just signed up to go in and went to basic and AIT up at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and then I signed up for officer candidate school and went down to Fort Benning for 6 months there, and then when I graduated there, I served 6 months at Fort Gordon and then got orders to go to Vietnam. And that was in February of '68, early February. I got there about February 2nd, I think it was.
Wow. When you went into the Army, what did the conflict in Vietnam mean to you? Was it just something that you felt like you just wanted to get it over with, or did the war in Vietnam have any significance to you?
No, sir, not really. It was just something I felt like I needed to try to help out if I could. I knew, like I say, I knew if I didn't volunteer, I was going to get drafted. I wouldn't be able to get a job anywhere. I was just what I considered a lucky one that went overseas and served the time and got back.
Wow. By the end of your tour in Vietnam, after you'd been there for is it about 16 months you're there total? 16?
Yeah.
17 months?
Yeah.
How did you feel? Because by the time you leave, I think we're starting to talk about Vietnamization. Did you feel that that the South Vietnamese would be able to stand on their own? Did you feel?
No, not really. But what little bit I saw, we didn't work straight with the South Vietnamese as much as other units did. But there were some good units there, and others were not as good. So I don't know. It's just that country had been in war so long. I think the civilian population, they felt like we were just intruders anyway. And they didn't care whether you were there or not.
Is that the feeling when you interacted with local Vietnamese, is that the feeling you picked up from them, that they just wanted to be left alone?
Most of the time, there were some that were kind of glad you were there, I think, but most of them, just like I say, were just wanting to get along with their lives. They were trying to eke out a living there on the land they had, and most of the time all you would find there would be young kids and women. There were no men around hardly at all, unless they were old men.
Yeah.
Just no young ones visible much at all, because they either hid or whatever. Because like I said, I know one time we walked through a village, checked everything out, and then helicopters picked us up, and as we were leaving, somebody stepped out of one of the hooches and shot at us with a rifle, and the bullet hit the seat the pilot was in. It had a little armor around him. It bounced off of that and went in the floor of the helicopter right between us there. So they just fired one shot. That was it.
And this is a village you had just been in, interacting with the people?
Just walked through, checked out everything, and
wow.
It's just something that happens.
That must be, if you're told that we're here to, to help this country stand up, and then you have that kind of experience, that must be pretty demoralizing.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of the guys that were there felt the same way. Like, we're not doing a whole lot of good, but in a lot of ways we did. I guess we were keeping them out, but as soon as we left, naturally they came in and took over.
Yeah, so you're saying, the Viet Cong they'd clear out when you're there, and then when you left, the Viet Cong would come right back in.
Oh, yeah.
I've talked to vets who are down there in the Mekong, Navy guys, and they say, and then maybe they have soldiers with them, and they say, we're going down the river or, a tributary of the river, and we know we're going to get hit, but, we're just waiting to get hit. And there's just that tension of, you're going to
Oh
get
yeah,
hit, but,
yeah, yep. And there's always certain places that you go. There were always certain places that if we went through there, we knew we were going to get hit. There was something like one of them was called a crossroads. It was where canals actually was just like a crossroads on a highway. And if you went through that area, you knew that the BC would be waiting there, just thinking somebody would come through, and they would open fire on you. Another one was Snoop his nose. Like the dog Snoopy. It was a big kind of a half moon circle like thing. If you went around that, they'd let you get strung out on both sides and then fire at you. And it was just kind of a bad situation. If you knew if you were going in those places, you were in for trouble.
When you arrived in the Delta, were you then a first lieutenant by that point?
No, I was second lieutenant then, and I was assigned to an infantry platoon, and just as a replacement. In fact, platoon sergeant that was there, he was an E6 fellow from Paducah, Kentucky, and he'd been in the military, I think, 11 years or something like that, and everybody liked him in the company and the platoon there. He was well thought of, been wounded 2 or 3 times.
Wow.
And like I say, I had never met any of the guys and all. He came up and met me that night on the ship before we were going out the next morning, and he said, "You're the 5th lieutenant I've had since I've been here. 2 went home wounded, 2 went home dead. Which are you going to be?"
Wow.
And I said, "I don't know. We just have to wait and see." And
wow.
Then he got killed sitting right next to me on that night of August 13th.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah, it was Sergeant James Williams, Staff Sergeant James Williams.
This is a challenge. I'm thinking you're a young second lieutenant, you've got training, but no combat experience. You show up in the Mekong, you're with soldiers. You mentioned your sergeant, has been wounded a number of times, has seen all kinds of combat. And in terms of rank, you're in charge, but in reality, the guys, you're in charge of have a lot more experience than you. So
yeah, most of them did. There was a good many of them were replacements, just like I was, because we were always undermanned there. It seemed like we were always short of people all the time, either from people being sent back home or either killed or wounded. We just never were fully manned anyway.
Yeah. What was your strategy early on when you realized, I'm in command, but I don't actually know what I'm doing here for a while? I have to learn. How did you work that out?
Well, you just kind of learn by experience. Just get out there and sort of watch everybody what they're doing and try to fit in. Is all I did. Depending on the guys that sergeant and most of the sergeants that we had there were just like us. They were new guys too, never really wasn't full-time Army people. So it was just a lot of guys trying to get along and survive, really.
When you think back on your tour in Vietnam, I know you have so many memories. I wonder if there's a particular memory that especially stands out in your mind, maybe one or two memories that when your mind just drifts back to Vietnam, are there 1 or 2 things that your mind just kind of goes to more than any other thing?
No, the only thing that really sticks out is a couple times we were ambushed and that kind of stuff, just the bad moments. That's the main thing that hangs with you. How
would you describe that? The adrenaline,
just scared and adrenaline. That's all. You living off just whatever you can do. like we were picked up one day by the Navy, been out 3 days, and they came up a canal, picked us up, and when they backed out off of the beach there to go on upstream, my boat got hit with a recoilless round, kind of like a bazooka type round.
Yeah.
And it was covered with canvas there, and I sat right at the front ramp in a little plastic seat there to get everybody off when we got off. And somebody asked me a question just right when we loaded up, and I got up and moved towards the back, and that round hit. And not 20 seconds after I got up out of that seat, but that seat was destroyed. So
Wow.
I wouldn't have been there. I know of at least 5 times I really should not have made it through. It just, those kind of things stay with you all the time. And I had 4 guys wounded that day on that boat too, so they had to be airlifted right off of the top of one of those tangos with a helicopter.
Is that one of those things that you play over and over in your mind? You know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
How come I made it and some other guys
didn't? Yeah.
So how long did you have in the Army when you came back to the States?
I was discharged when I came back to the States, really. I only had like less than 3 months to serve. If you had less than 3 months, you could get discharged. So I got discharged there at Fort Lewis, Washington, and I was flown back to Atlanta, then rode a Greyhound bus back to my hometown there in Elberton, Georgia, and I got there about 4:30 in the morning, and my sister lived there in town, and I got the bus driver to stop on the way in. We went by her house, about within 2 blocks of it. I got off the bus at 4:30 in the morning, walked over to her porch and sit there till 6:30 when they got up, and then they called my dad, and he came and got me. So that's kind of my homecoming.
So you pretty much go right from Vietnam to being a civilian.
Yep.
And how did that go for you? I mean, how did that transition go?
I think I did better than most somehow. I don't know. I mean, I had episodes where I'd be jumpy and kind of spooky and all stuff like that if something made an unusual noise, but I pretty well adapted fairly quick, I think, because when I got back, I went to work with my dad and them. They were building houses and all construction, and I went to work there for a little while, and then I got a call about applying for a job in Langston. I applied there, and that was only within 6 months after I got home. So I just stayed busy. I didn't sit around or thinking about this and that. I just stayed busy all the time.
Have you had the experience? A number of other vets tell me that they, once they retired and had a little more time and they're thinking back more. I've heard vets say, I think more about Vietnam now than I did 30 years ago. Is that true for you?
Yeah, I think so. For me it is anyway. I don't know why, but...
When Vietnam comes to your mind, when it just kind of drifts through your mind, what kinds of things do you see in your mind when it comes back to you?
Just all the only thing I see really is just the bad combat situations we were in. Nothing else really sticks out to me.
I know I'm kind of getting a little philosophical here, but as you look back, what's the most important thing you learned from your experience in Vietnam?
Most important thing I learned, just to kind of get along with your fellow soldiers or fellow men and understand how they feel, and just work with them, your unit, your brothers forever.
And so is that, you said earlier that, you suggested you didn't have a whole lot of confidence that the situation in South Vietnam would go well. So if I ask a question about the meaning of the war, it sounds like you're saying for you the meaning became just being there for your fellow soldiers and knowing that your fellow soldiers are there for you, and that's pretty much what it's about.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And just trying to do your time and hopefully survive and go home and live the rest of your life.